The security footage begins in silence. The parking garage is nearly empty, its cold concrete corridors bathed in sickly yellow light. A few scattered cars sit like abandoned husks, their metal frames reflecting the dull flicker of overhead fluorescence. The camera cycles through different angles, rows of parked vehicles, the silent elevator doors, the exit ramp leading into the vast emptiness of the night. A timestamp in the corner reads 12:47 a.m. The footage glitches briefly, a split second of static disrupting the feed. Incident 1, the first victim. A lone man walks toward his car, his footsteps echoing unnaturally in the stillness. He wears a long coat, his head down, focused on his phone. The grainy footage captures him stopping beside his vehicle, fishing his keys from his pocket. His body stiffens. He tilts his head slightly like he's listening to something. His breath fogs in the air, too much, too thick for the temperature inside the garage. He turns, eyes scanning the empty lot. Then, he is thrown backward with inhuman force. His body slams into the concrete with a sickening crunch. His limbs flail wildly, his mouth opening in a silent scream. The camera flickers, static distorting the feed. His body convulses violently, his arms bent at unnatural angles as if unseen hands are twisting them. His head is yanked back so fast that his neck snaps. His body goes limp. A thick pool of blood expands beneath him, seeping into the cracks of the garage floor. The camera glitches again. When the feed stabilizes, the corpse is gone. Incident 2, the women in the elevator. 1:32 a.m., a new camera feed. This one points toward the elevator doors. A pair of women step out, their laughter muted through the silent footage. They reach the vehicle, but before the taller woman can open the door, she freezes. Her shoulders stiffen, her head twitches slightly to the side, as if something whispered directly into her ear. The shorter woman notices too late. She looks up just as her friend begins lifting into the air. Her feet dangle inches above the concrete, her throat constricted by an unseen force. Her body thrashes wildly, her hands clawing at nothing, her eyes bulging in pure primal terror. The shorter woman stumbles backward, her mouth open in a silent scream. She turns to run, but something grabs her ankle. She crashes onto the pavement, dragged backward by an invisible grip. She kicks and screams, clawing at the ground. Then her head whips to the side with an audible snap. She stops moving. The taller woman's thrashing slows. Her limbs twitch, her fingers spasming weakly. A faint mist leaves her mouth, her final breath, before her body crumples to the floor like a broken doll. The camera flickers. When the feed returns, both bodies are gone. The security guard. 3:07 a.m. A security guard appears on the next feed. He walks with purpose, his flashlight beam cutting through the dim garage. His hand hovers near the radio on his belt as he mutters into it. There should be blood. There should be bodies. There's nothing. He kneels, running his fingers over the ground where the women died. A sound, a deep, guttural exhale. Not from him. The guard whips around, shining his flashlight toward the far corner of the garage. The beam illuminates nothing. Then his flashlight flickers, the shadows warp, something moves, a faint shimmer in the air like heat waves rising from asphalt. The guard steps backward, his breath quickens. His flashlight dies. The camera captures everything in eerie night vision. He jerks violently, lifted off his feet. His limbs thrash as he's slammed into the ceiling. He drops, spasms. Incident 4, the janitor. 3:58 a.m. The janitor's cart squeaks as she wheels it down the empty corridor of the garage. She hums softly, her mop swiping in slow arcs across the floor. She stops at the elevator, dipping the mop into the bucket. A shadow moves behind her, not a normal shadow, something unnatural. The camera distorts violently, the janitor stiffens, gripping the mop handle tightly. She sees nothing. Then, her entire body is yanked off the ground, her spine arches unnaturally as she's lifted higher, her limbs spasming wildly. Her feet dangle above the floor. She kicks, gurgling, trying to scream, but something clamps over her mouth, something invisible. Her body convulses, bones snapping audibly. Her ribs cave inward, as if unseen fingers are crushing her from the inside. Blood pours from her mouth, her eyes rolling back. She's held there for several long, agonizing seconds. Then, she explodes. Her remains splatter across the walls, intestines unfurling like wet rope. Her head bounces once on the pavement before rolling out of frame. The camera flickers. 4:44 a.m. A single camera remains operational, facing the exit ramp. The toll booth sits empty, its red and white barrier lowered. The garage is silent. The barrier arm rises. Nothing moves, no cars, no people, then the air shifts. A distortion ripples past the camera, something leaving. The footage cuts to black. The security logs reveal something disturbing. The system automatically registers the movement of objects in its vicinity. The logs show multiple entries of unidentified motion detected throughout the night. But the footage, what remains of it, shows only one thing.